At the time of this event, I could never have fully understood the consequences of what just might have happened. When I was about 8 or so, I was playing hide and seek with some of my friends. This is something that we often did in the kind of backwoods area behind the back of our houses. All of our houses interconnected, so we never had any problem playing out with each other because we were literally on each other's doorsteps. There was something a little off about this day. I don't know quite what it was. Maybe it was that our parents were out for the day. I'm not sure, but there was just something strange. Maybe it was just because it was approaching Halloween and it just had that creepy vibe to it. Maybe it was a mist, I don't know. But anyway, that didn't matter. We were kids having fun. Like I said, most of our parents were out at work and all we could see out the window was the fog. But that wasn't going to stop us having our fun. We all went out to play hide and seek like we normally do. When we stepped out, we were all amazed at how dense the fog was. We absolutely loved it. We thought it was absolutely hilarious, the fact that we couldn't even see each other when we were standing no more than 20 feet away. We thought it was the funniest thing in the world, and that just made playing hide and seek all the more fun. Plus, what other games could we play? This was brilliant. So we're about to set off to play. Well, who's gonna hide and who's gonna seek then? Just as we were discussing that, I ran off into the woods like I normally did, so that way I could avoid having to seek. All of us flit off in opposite directions. I had only went a few feet in and then I looked behind. It was strange. I couldn't see anyone, but I couldn't hear the others. Maybe the fog was stopping my voice from carrying, I thought. But still, I thought this was like paradise. It looked so cool and there was no way they were going to find me. I started walking into the forest slightly, into the more dense areas. I knew that it probably wasn't a good idea to go far. Heck, even my 8-year-old self knew that. So I went a little way. I saw the car that I would normally hide behind that had been there for some time and was pretty rusted. But I decided, because the fog was there, and they knew that's where I always hided, I was pretty sure I could get a far better place, and I went deeper into the woods. Now at this point, I was probably deep enough in the woods for them not to find me. I kept looking around and I just couldn't see anything good enough. Yeah, I could hide under some leaves, but they are all soggy and it's kind of disgusting, what with all the insects and bugs and all. I was somewhat annoyed and kept on going further and further. I was still cautious though, and I knew my rough way back. What I couldn't believe was just how dense the fog was. It made it look like the trees would go on forever. Again, I was almost in awe at just how amazing this was. I was somewhat disappointed though, because I couldn't see anywhere good to hide. It wouldn't be long before they would find me. Quick, I've got to find somewhere, I thought to myself. As I went further, I saw a really big tree. I thought this would be a good place to hide behind, but surely they're going to notice it. I decided to walk on further. Just as I did, I heard a screeching sound. What the hell is that? I had no idea what it was at first. The fog was somewhat distorting the sound. It got louder and louder until I realised it was only some sirens. I then turned back, and as I did, from looking from where the sirens were coming from, I noticed that the big tree had a cutout in the bottom. It kind of split away, if you know what I mean. Perfect, they'll never see me in that. All it needs is a door and they'd never find me. I thought this was brilliant. I went into my hiding spot. I couldn't stop smiling to myself. There's no way they're ever gonna find me. This is perfect. I just sat there enjoying the whole thing and looking forward to doing trick-or-treating as Halloween was coming up in a few days. I couldn't see anything. I decided I was going to go a little bit out of where I was hiding. As I did, I just looked at all the leaves and I thought I could hear something. What was that? Sounds like a small animal. I could hear a slight rustling of the leaves. I thought it was just an animal, so I decided to go back quickly just in case it was someone else. Now I'd sat there for around half an hour, All I could hear was that rabbit or whatever it was lingering around. It really started to annoy me. Oh God, I bet that's one of them. I should get moving. I slowly peered round and I can see it. It's one of them. I saw a large shadow just coming through whatever light there was through the fog. It was kind of in my direction. Oh no, I said to myself. Oh, I spoke too loud. The shadow began walking towards me. I quickly hid back and didn't make a sound. The sound was getting closer and closer. I just couldn't believe that they hadn't found me yet, considering how long they were lingering around. But then I heard really heavy breathing. It was strange because it's not the way any of my friends would breathe, and why would they not be making any sounds? Normally, we would be laughing or joking about being able to find the other person. We always did that. But we would breathe happily and cheerfully, if that makes sense, like you were playing sports or something. But this just sounded different. It sounded too deep. Quiet, they're getting close, I thought to myself. And I sat there for even longer. Doing so, I started to feel adrenaline, or I didn't know it at the time, but my heart was beating faster and faster. I could hear it in my ears. And then there was just silence. I know you're in here. You gotta come out sooner or later. What was that? I thought to myself. That's not my friend. That's a man. I didn't know what to do. I just sat there, froze in terror. I heard the footsteps getting closer and closer. Oh my God. I could see a foot. This must have been a giant of a man. I was only small at the time, but this guy must have been at least 6'3". They were dressed in all black. That didn't make sense. Why wouldn't they wear normal clothes? I know it was kind of cold outside, but why would you wear all black in fog? That would have been so dangerous for crossing roads and crossing streets at night. I was terrified at this point. I didn't know what to think. I tried my best not to let out a scream. Then they spoke again. I know you're in there. There's nowhere to run. I felt my heart drop. I didn't know what to do at this point. I just sat there terrified. They were so close now. Their feet were literally right outside the entrance to the tree. I had no idea what to do. Please don't look down, please. And then, just as I thought I was about to get noticed, he walked off. He only made it 4 steps away. The only thing I was thinking is he must have been so tall that he couldn't have even seen the opening in the tree. I took my chance and ran the hell out of there. There you are, I heard, as well as footsteps behind me. I let out a scream and sprinted as quick as I could, trying to get back. Oh no, I have no idea where I'm going. How do I get back now? I was sprinting. My breathing was becoming heavier and heavier. He was making all kinds of weird breathing sounds. He sounded so unfit. Nothing would stop me sprinting back home though. I knew roughly where I was going, but I still felt so lost at the same time. It must have been the panic. I was running as hard as I could. Yes, there's a car. I finally saw it, the car. I know where I am now. I kept on going and going. Then the man's footsteps finally fell faint behind me as they become quieter and quieter. I was sprinting. What's that? Oh, it's my fence. Thank God. I ran inside and locked all the doors. I had no idea where my friends were though. I didn't know what to do. I just panicked. I just sat there. I didn't really know how to use a phone back then, so all I could do is just sit there and lock the doors and hide under the table. Then I heard it, a knock on the door. No, please. What's going on? Is everything alright in there? I didn't know what to do. Then I heard the front door open. My heart dropped again. But then, I heard the sound of my mum's voice. Where are you? We've been looking all over for you. Have you heard what's happened? That we can't explain. Are you okay? Is everything alright? Yeah. And I started to explain what had happened, and as I did, I saw my parents' face go really strange. It looked like they'd just seen a ghost or something. My mum just looked at my dad, then my dad nodded his head and gone on to the phone. I didn't know who he was talking to, but he was on the phone for an awful long time. My mum come and sat down with me and said, "Something very bad's happened and all your friends are okay. Don't worry about it. Just as long as you're okay, just please promise that you'll never go out on your own again." I was so shaken I didn't know what to think. It was as I got older that my parents finally revealed what had happened to me. It turned out there was a child predator on the loose who is in my exact town. In fact, was in my exact street. The police had been hunting him for a few days. He used the fog as a perfect cover to try and stalk his victims. All I do today is just thank God that nothing ever happened to me, and that my 8-year-old self was able to escape him. When I was younger, hide and seek was a game that I often played with my friends. We did lots of other games, but back when I was younger, I know, a long time ago, there really wasn't that many things for us to do, so we kind of had to make up our own fun. We couldn't just go on computers or use technology like kids nowadays do. So we really were more creative, I guess, but that doesn't mean what we were doing was any less dangerous. So I had lots of close calls and dangerous tales, but this has to be the most close and scary one by a long shot. Around where we live, there was lots of fields that led onto a forested area. There was lots and lots of shrubs and trees here, just loads of greenery. It was kind of hard to navigate and it was quite a walk to get there, and nobody was ever there when we used to go. Plus we didn't take the normal route people would to get there, so it was perfect for us, but even the walk was dangerous. Any one of us could have really easily slipped and twisted one of our ankles, or even worse. But regardless, we still loved to play there. This isn't the main story, but something that happened there which was really scary to us anyway. It had just gotten dark and we were all supposed to go back home, but none of us wanted to really, because our parents wouldn't normally let us out at night. That doesn't mean we wouldn't sneak out of windows and stuff, but it wasn't worth getting caught. So we were heading back after a day of fun, that we decided that we were going to go back to play just one more time. It was such a rush and thrill to actually be out on our own at night. We walked quite a long way from the foresty area that we usually went to play and where we had been previously. We could see all the stars too. This was amazing. We loved it. Me and my friends were walking there and we were going to go and finish our game of tag even though it was dark. We loved the idea of playing tag in the dark. So we went back to where we usually did, not taking the main way, just getting in like we normally would. As we got there, we loved it. I was the first one being chased. I ran off and they could hardly see me where it was dark, but that didn't mean they didn't know where I was. We were all guided by the sounds of each other's laughter. It was amazing. As I was running, I heard the sound of a car. "Shh, everyone get down!" The adrenaline filled our bodies. We all laid low trying to get away from whoever or whatever it was up. I know I say it's a car now, but you've got to remember, at the time I really didn't know what it was. We heard a man shouting, saying, "Get the hell out of here, what are you doing?" Even though we were all meant to lay low and not make any sound. The thought of a big man shouting at us, telling us to go away, made us terrified. We all sprinted away as quick as we possibly could, our hearts pounding. Is he following us? What do we do? "Please never come back here again, it's too dangerous, you have no idea what you're doing." We didn't have time to hear the rest of what he was saying as we were sprinting the hell out of there, running as quick as we possibly could to get back. We didn't know exactly what he wanted, but we just knew that none of us wanted to find out. We all sprinted home. Our parents came to greet us just outside of our houses. Why were you out so late? Just got lost. Lost track of time, you know. And that's all any of us said. We knew it wasn't worth our parents knowing what actually went on. They would never let us out again if we did. So that was one of the first scary experiences I had there. Again, like I said, not the main experience, just a very scary one. My other story took place around November time. All of us were off school and we all just wanted to have fun. So once again, we went over to the big forested area. As we were approaching, we could hear some birds. That's weird. We never really hear them on the approach where the ground kind of flattens out. Then we saw what looked like a body of water. As we got closer, we realised that there was a really small circle lake. That's amazing. Well, it was probably more like a large pond, but we'd never seen anything like it before. It was amazing. My friends were pretending that they were going to swim, but I stopped them saying that we don't know what's in there. It looked really weird though. Why would there just be a body of water like that here? With nobody around it? It's so circle and symmetrical, it makes no sense. It can't be man-made, but why is it so round? We didn't understand, and just hung out there for a little while. It was getting dark, so we began walking even further, like we normally did, to get to the forest area. We picked up some stones and we were messing around saying that none of us could throw it far. So we were throwing stones the whole time there. Again, it sounds like something so mundane, but at the time it was absolutely brilliant. We loved doing this. We were all joking around because I had a terrible throw on me. As we were walking, we realised we were at the exact same spot where we had heard that car all them months ago. Weird. What do you think it was? I don't know. I really don't. Do you want to investigate? Yeah, sure. We all decided to investigate. As we were going, we were shocked by what we found. There was just loads of pieces of metal everywhere. It was really strange. It almost looked like a plane had crashed or something, but there wasn't any plane. Just lumps of metal. And more circle things. They're almost like discs. Where we were young, we even wondered if it was a UFO we had seen. Or maybe a UFO that had crashed. Oh, of course it wasn't. It's probably just the man tipping stuff there. You're right, we all said. And we continued to throw stones. As we did, one of the furthest throws that I did, surprisingly, made a really weird sound. It didn't sound like it had hit any ground. It almost sounded like it had sunk. Then I threw another one in the same direction. Then I heard a splash and saw some water. It was getting dark, but I definitely saw some water. We all looked at each other again. Why would there be water here? That's really strange. So we walked into the direction. Another one. A big circle filled with water. Why do these keep showing up? All we could think was that these were made by aliens, and we started to get a little freaked out. Again, my friends were willing to swim in it, but I said, no, do you know how cold it is and how dark it's getting? And they agreed that I was probably right. So we just kept on throwing stones at it. And we found more stones and more metal around. This is really strange. We continued throwing the stones. Wow, look at the size of this one, my friend said. Oh, you can't throw that. What if you miss? Miss? How am I going to miss? He threw it anyway. And he seemed to throw it really far. This time, he threw it down somewhat of a hill. We couldn't really see where the stone went. Next thing you know, I heard the loudest sound I've ever heard in my life. None of us knew what it was. Our ears were ringing. We just screamed and started running the opposite direction. We had no idea what had just happened. We again thought that maybe we had disturbed the aliens or hit their craft or something. We were clueless. Regardless, we kept sprinting. As we were running though, we went a slightly different way than we normally went because we are so scared and disorientated. As we were again, we could see more bodies of water in them circles. What the hell is this? We were convinced at this point that we had found an alien site. We kept on sprinting. As we did, we noticed more of these bodies of water. Some were quite big. Not very often, but they were getting bigger, it seemed. We kept on and on sprinting until finally we could see the tall trees overshadowing us from in the distance. Quick, jump over that gate. Why is there a fence? What do them signs say? I've got no idea, just keep going. We finally got through it all and made our way back home. We were all terrified. I didn't understand why there was a fence. I swear there was never a fence, but what was that? I was still convinced in my mind that we had disturbed some aliens and we really needed to get out of there. The only difference was that when we were walking back home, we decided that we had to tell our parents about the aliens so that way we didn't get abducted or something. So I went home and told my mum, and she was just laughing, but she thought there was no way there could have been aliens. But when she saw the scared expression in my face, she looked a little different, as if she had almost been scared by my reaction. What exactly was this explosion you saw? And I explained it, and my mum went and got my dad. Now I don't remember exactly what was said, but all I know is that I had a very long and lengthy conversation about why I should never be allowed to play again over there, and how that I could literally die about it. And just saying that alone put the fear of God into me about going back. None of us ever played there again. My mum told my friends' parents and they had the same talk about how dangerous it was to go there. As I got older, I did some research into the area because I still wanted to know what the explosion was. It turned out that was an area that had been heavily bombed during World War II and was a massively restricted area. There was literally hundreds, if not thousands, of unexploded bombs over there. Even typing this, I'm shaken to think that I was literally stood in the dead centre of what's basically a minefield, littered with unexploded World War II bombs. When I was 10, I had a best friend that I would always play out with. We both lived quite close to each other. It was less than a mile. Although our houses are surrounded by forests, because we lived so close to each other and it was so rare you would get people up where we lived, our parents had no problem with us just walking to each other. We did this lots and I'm actually still really good friends with him. I'll just call him Paul to keep his identity private for now, but basically he was a really good friend that I had a really strong bond with. As I said, we lived near a forest. Now, a ways into the forest, there was a lake and a small hut. We never actually went into the hut because our parents warned us about it and said that they do hear and see people coming in and out of the woods at night, and there seems to always be a group of them and they're always hooded. Sometimes when I looked out my window I could even see the very distant faint light of their torches. Just this alone was enough to scare us out of ever going there at night or approaching the hut because we were pretty sure that's where they always went to. During the daytime, there was nothing wrong with us going there to play and hang out. We just loved the forest. There was just something about it. I don't know, we just loved it. What we loved more than the forest was the lake. So one day, me and my friend set off like normal with our fishing gear. I said goodbye to my mum and she told me, like she always does, "Son, be careful. I've heard more reports about people going in and out of there. You better be back before it's dark." Yeah, sure mum, okay. I was just in a rush to get out. I didn't want to waste daylight even more than she did for me to get back. So I set off and started walking down the path to go and see my friend. It was very nice and somewhat calming. All I could hear was the nature and see the light of the sun piercing through the trees. I always enjoyed the walk too because even though I was a kid I still enjoyed having time out on my own and being independent. I thought I was so strong and brave for going out on my own. Looking back on it now, it's kind of silly and probably not the best of things to do, but heck, I was a kid. and I really didn't give too much thought into it. Anyway, as I set off, I did notice that it started to rain very lightly, even though you could still see the sun, if you know what I mean. But that wasn't going to put me off. Even though sometimes I found it made it harder to do the fishing because the splashes on the water made it harder to see if there was anything on your line. That's if you're not holding the fishing line. But I set off anyway. The rain started to pick up, and as I got closer to my friend's house, it finally let up a little bit. The rain was only spitting down at this point. And just as I got up to where my friend lived, I heard him getting the exact same lecture from his parents. They took a break from this and looked up at me to smile quickly, and I waved back, and then they went straight back to talking to my friend about the reportings that had happened recently. Our parents didn't go into detail about them, but we just knew and understood it was very important to be back before it got dark. So I waited and waited for what felt like an eternity, waiting for my friend to stop being lectured until finally he caught up with me. "Hey man, you alright, Paul?" "Yeah, I'm good. Did you get the same thing?" "Yeah, it was really long." We decided to put it behind us because we were both pretty scared anyway, and we didn't like the way our parents were unsettling us about going out. So we set off into the forest. The rain began to pick up again, but neither of us minded. Well, I did because I forgot my coat, but that didn't matter, it's still quite humid. As we were walking, we did hear some things that kind of unsettled us. It almost sounded like voices or people talking. We weren't sure exactly where it was coming from, but the forest was so thick that you could very easily misinterpret the voice of somebody for a small animal, or vice versa, so we just assumed that this was small animals. We finally got to the lake after what felt like an eternity of walking. The rain had picked up once again. Still, both of us set out our reels and just waited for the fish to come in. I'd learnt to fish by watching my dad, and I'd taught my friend Paul to do the same. We both loved doing that, it was just so relaxing, and we had lots of fun. After a while of not finding any fish, we decided that we were going to start playing some games, and the game we always went to was either tag or hide and seek. I suggested if we played tag, but my friend Paul decided that it'd be best if we played hide and seek, because with the rain it might make it a lot more exciting. I agreed, and Paul was the first one to hide. So I sat there and just counted, keeping my eye on the water, waiting for any fish to come up. I could hear Paul's laughter getting fainter and fainter as he went off to hide. He knew not to go too far, and I trusted him to do so. There was only 2 of us anyway. I began searching for Paul after I counted to 100. He seemed to have ran off quite a long way. Paul? I thought maybe he would laugh and reply to me, but I didn't hear anything, so I started to set off, making sure I always kept the lake in sight, so that way I would know where to go back to. I had started to go a little deep into the forested area. I was very cautious though, because it's slippery, and I knew that if I had tripped or something it would be very hard to get back. "Paul, I know you're in here. Your laughter's gonna give it away, I know it is." I was still trying to make Paul laugh at the time, but I got nothing. I thought that was a little strange, because it's impossible not to laugh while you're doing this, so I thought. I kept walking round, and suddenly the rain got a lot worse. I thought this was weird because it was sunny the days before now, and why has the rain picked up so heavily? It was like somebody turned the tap on or something. Even to this day, I've never seen rain like it. It was almost torrential compared to how it was raining before. It didn't make sense. Ah, God, I just want to go home now, I thought to myself. Then I found a large tree that gave me some cover from the rain. I decided I was going to wait it out a bit, but then I heard thunder. Oh great, a storm's coming. It's not good to be out here at this time, especially not with a storm, I thought to myself. Just as that happened, I saw the distinctive flash of lightning. Suddenly, it had got very dark from the clouds and whatnot. I began to get a little scared, and I said, Paul, I think we gotta get going. Paul? Suddenly, I jumped at the sound of cracking thunder. I felt really scared at this point and started jogging, trying to find Paul. Paul, where are you? Paul? Suddenly, I felt somebody grab my arm. I can almost let out a scream. I felt like I was going to collapse. Oh, it was Paul. Paul, what are you... Shh, quiet, there's people there. What? I had no idea what was going on, but I just knew that I was very scared. What are you talking about, Paul? Shh, be quiet, get down, quick. Even though I was whispering, I didn't know why Paul wanted me to be so quiet. There was no way anybody would have been able to hear us anyway, what with the sound of the thunder and rain. There's people there, I'm telling you. What do you mean, Paul? At this point, he was shaking and somewhat teary. You know the people we always got warned about? That's them. There's 6 of them in black hoods. You've got to look at this. Paul, no, again. Shh, follow me. I didn't have a choice. I followed my friend Paul. I didn't really know where I was at this point, and I just prayed that Paul did. I followed him up to the hut. Paul, look, we can't. It's too dangerous. It's alright, the hut's good. Just look at this. As I was hiding behind the hut with Paul waiting for a chance to see what was going on, we were met with more thunder. This time it was more intense. It didn't make sense though, it was so dark. It was almost like night time, and this really, really harrowing wind picked up. It was really scaring me, and I started to shake a little. As I looked over to the left, I could see somewhat of a glow. I wanted to get a look at what Paul was so scared of. Look now. As I looked up, I saw 3 torches. Then I saw 6 people in hoods, all linked around each other saying some weird chants. And it looked like one of them was bleeding. I almost felt sick. And what's that smell? You've got to look at that. Oh no, it's not what I think it is it? There was 3 dead animals right next to the guys in hoods. They were bleeding heavily and probably died recently. I went really lightheaded at that point. We've got to get out of here. Quick, run. No, are you stupid? We've got to stay here. What, are you crazy, Paul? Look, if we run, they're going to see us. I swear they saw me. Oh my god, what do we do? I was shaking at this point so much that I was worried they're even going to be able to hear my feet. We got to go in the hut. No, you're crazy, Paul. We've got to. And just like that, he showed me a small opening where either an animal or a person had dug. I was scared, but I knew I'd feel a lot more safe if I went in there. So Paul led the way and I went with him into this small hut. As we sat there, the storm seemed to intensify. There was a small crack and I looked through, and what I could see was they were doing some kind of ritual or something. I was terrified. But Paul, you don't think that's the reason that all the rain's here, do you? Yes, I do. Oh god. We were terrified at this point. We had no idea what was going to happen. We didn't know where we were. It was too dark for us to find our way back. What's our parents going to think? I was so scared, and we both just sat there in silence, not knowing what to do. All we could hear is them mumbling their strange words. The only option we had was to wait it out in the storm. I was hell-bent on running out of there, but Paul told me how stupid an idea this was, and I had to agree with him. What's that? What's what? Paul, what are you talking? Oh no, they're gonna find us. I let out a gasp and suddenly there was silence. Through a crack on the other side of the hut that we had just came through, you could see more torches approaching. Oh god, my heart beat quicker and quicker. They got closer and closer until there was silence. They were now standing only a few feet away from us. I heard one of them speak. Is that them? I said to Paul, and he kicked me to be quiet. Then silence again. I was definite I was going to die at this point. Then suddenly, I heard the footsteps get fainter and fainter. I crawled over to the other side to look and see what was going on. They were now joining the others. What was worse, they also had a dead animal. It was disgusting. I had no idea what to do or what my parents would be thinking. I just sat there, scared, next to Paul. We couldn't even see what was in the hut around us, it was so dark. I was so scared, I just laid there still. I was just terrified, so was Paul. All we could hear was the sound of their chants, and it didn't seem like it was going to end. I decided that our best option now was just to stay there for as long as we could. After laying there silent for hours, we decided that it would be best to try and get a sleep and escape in the morning. And that's just what we did. As I woke up and I realised the situation I was still in, Paul was already up. He said, "You've got to look at this." I didn't know what it was, but I looked up through the crack and it was bright as day. It was so weird, and Paul started going out. "Paul, you sure?" "Yeah, it's clear, it's alright, man." I crawled out too. What I saw scared me even more than what I'd previously witnessed. It was the sunniest day that it could have possibly been. There was no evidence of rain or a storm whatsoever. Everything was dry as bone. It was so weird. How could that be possible? "Are you sure they're gone, Paul?" "Yes, they're gone." Almost angry at me. They were definitely gone, but there was no evidence of rain whatsoever. It couldn't have been possible. It was pouring down. Not a single leaf was wet. And as I turned the corner, nothing. All the animals were gone. Everything was gone. There wasn't even any blood or anything from where the people had stood the night before. No evidence of the torches, nothing. It was as if they'd never even went there before. I did make it home safely later, but that's needless to say that I was terrified. I decided not to tell my parents what had actually happened at the time, out of fear of them not believing me. But this was easily the most terrifying experience of my entire life that left me with more questions than answers. The following story happened about 3 years ago when I was playing hide and seek with my daughter. We live near some World War II airfields and there's lots of bunkers and things. As long as my daughter doesn't go far and there's nobody else around, I love to play hide and seek with her. I just find it as really good bonding time. However, this one time that I played hide and seek, I was left a little more shook up than I thought I would be. Heck, more than I've ever been in my life, to be honest. So it was just on a summer's evening, when the nights are quite long. It was just slowly getting dark, but we were about to head home anyway. "Right, one more time. Just run off and hide and I will find you again." I laughed, and my daughter laughed too and ran off. Around where we play hide and seek sometimes, there was also an old house. It was abandoned, but it was reportedly haunted. I personally was a skeptic of this and never thought that my daughter would go in there because how scared she is of ghosts and things. She was a very strong believer and so was my wife, but that's beside the point. I decided I would have a look round it and walk to see what I could find just while I was letting my daughter hide. I didn't want to give her too long to make sure she didn't go off far, but it didn't matter really, because I could see around for miles. And I set off looking from bunker and bunker. "Here I come," and I could hear her distinct giggles off in the background. I knew she hadn't gone far. Heck, I knew exactly where she had went. She was in one of the bunkers to the side. I started checking each bunker knowing that there was no way that she was going to be in it. I went into one bunker and it was empty, so I made the short walk to the next one. As I did, I got a really strange feeling, almost as if I was being watched. It kind of scared me a little bit, and for some reason I was drawn back to the old house. I didn't let it faze me, and I thought it was just where it was getting dark. I was getting kind of paranoid. So I decided that I was going to go into the next bunker just with a fearless attitude. "I know you're in here," I said to myself, knowing that she wasn't, and I could still hear her laughter. As I got in there, I heard her laughter again, but it almost sounded like I heard two children. It was really strange. I just put it down to the echoes of the bunker, which you know how they're kind of funny shaped sometimes with lots of echoing walls. Even my laugh and thinking out loud was echoing. So I stepped out. What was a little strange though was that I still had that feeling, and I was really drawn to that house. It was really strange. I didn't know what it was. Like I said, I didn't really think anything was there, but you know, when you're out there kind of on your own, things like this, they just start to play on your mind. I was also panicking a little bit because I thought that, well, what if I can't get to my daughter in time? Heck, I don't want to risk leaving her out there in the dark. So I decided to just jog a little bit as I went to the other places where she would normally hide, like behind a set of rocks and some tall grass. I didn't see her laying down or anything. Just as I was standing there, I got that strange feeling that I just couldn't shake, only this time it was much stronger. I heard some giggling, and then I saw my daughter run past. "Found you, come back." "Hey, you gotta come back now, it's time to go home, it's getting dark." "Lindsay," my daughter's name, she didn't reply. That was strange. I started to get really worried now. "Come on, don't play games, this is really important we get going. I've told you how dangerous it is to be out late at night." "Lindsay." Oh, God. I couldn't hear her voice again. I started to panic a little and jogged to the other places she normally went. "Lindsay, come on now, we gotta get going." To be honest, it was the overpowering feeling that I was being watched that was really putting me off. I went back to the first two bunkers just to make sure she hadn't ran back there. At this point, I was feeling really scared. I got that same feeling again. It was almost as if I was being watched. Maybe it was a paranoia, but I swear out of the corner of my eye I saw someone in the top window. That didn't make sense. The house has no stairs. I'm losing it. Just as I thought that, I heard my daughter's laugh again. "Alright, come on. Come on. We gotta go." I saw her running this time in the tall grass. I ran after her. Heck, I ran the fastest I think I ever have before. But I couldn't see her. I ran to the exact spot where she was. This doesn't make sense. Where is she? What's she doing? I was really confused. It was almost as if she had just disappeared. And again I had that overpowering fear. I started to really shout out her name and saying that she was going to be in big trouble if she didn't return back quickly. And I decided reluctantly that I was going to have to check that manor house. There was no way she had went in there. She was too scared, but I couldn't rule that out of the question. So I reluctantly walked towards there. I still felt like I was being watched. It became overpowering, but I had to overcome this to go back and find my daughter. "Lindsay, come on. Please, we gotta go now." It was getting much closer to nightfall. I could still see, but I really didn't want to be out this late. I kept walking towards the house until finally that strange feeling gone. I looked in and I could clearly see that she wasn't in there. That feeling, it eventually went away and I just stepped back. I heard the giggling again. It was by the bunker. I wasted no time thinking and sprinted all the way back to the furthest one. She never normally went in there, but I didn't know what to think. Just as I did that, I heard a strange giggling coming from behind me. What do I do now? I'm just outside the bunker, but I swear I heard my daughter here. Then I saw something run past again. I sprinted and saw that there was a small girl running in a white dress. I stopped for a second because my daughter wasn't wearing anything white. I heard giggling from behind me. At this point my heart was beating through my chest. I had no idea what to think. I looked up and I felt my heart drop. I saw a small child waving at me, smiling from the top window. I nearly fainted. I'd never been so scared in my life, and what was even worse, I heard a small voice from behind me. "Daddy, there you are. I've been here the whole time, silly." And I turned round and saw my daughter. "We need to get out of here, quick, quick." "Why are you so scared, Dad? There's no time to explain. Just come with me." And we'd gone back to my car and I almost fainted again. I was shaking. "Daddy, why is your face white?" I didn't explain to my daughter at the time. I just sat there, terrified. I had no idea what to think of the entire encounter. Am I losing my mind? What's going on? I definitely saw it, but there was no way it couldn't be possible. And like I said, at the time I was still skeptic. I don't know what to think today of the whole experience. I just know that that was the most terrifying experience I've ever had in my life. It's fair to say that I didn't play hide and seek with my daughter there ever again.